As I rushed out the front door of L. Ron Hubbard's former office at 37 Fitzroy Street in London and stepped into a beautiful June day in 2007, the only thing I was certain of was that I had to get away before anyone realized what I was doing. I left with only a briefcase containing my passport, a few papers, a thumb drive, and 2 cell phones. Had I attempted to take more, or had I tried to bring my wife and children with me, I knew it would make my escape impossible. I figured I would get them out once I was in a safe place. I headed toward the nearby Warren Street tube station, glancing over my shoulder to see if I had been followed. I knew if I ran, I might attract attention, so I resisted the urge until I rounded the first corner and ducked into a doorway to catch my breath. Although I had not physically exerted myself, my heart was racing as if I had just completed a 100-meter sprint. I waited 30 seconds, saw no one, and stepped back onto the street, now walking faster, still acutely aware of my surroundings. I tried to maintain the appearance of a regular Londoner hurrying to the tube, rather than a fugitive. I knew all the tricks they employed to track down someone like me. After all, I had done the tracking down myself. I needed to get out of sight, remove the batteries from my phones, use only cash, and stay on the move. The relief began to flood my body as I descended the long escalator. I stopped at the bottom and surveyed the few people behind me. Still no familiar faces. I stood on the platform, back against the tiled wall, and waited for the train to pull in. When it did, I stayed put until all the other passengers had boarded, jumping on at the last minute while glancing down the platform to see if there were any other last-minute riders. There were none. As I sat down and the train pulled out of the station, I breathed long and hard and tried to calm myself. I had a couple of $100, but nowhere to stay. No clothes other than what I was wearing, no car or job, and no idea what I was going to do or where I was going to go. I knew only that I had to escape the madness my life had descended into. I hoped I could gather my thoughts and figure out a plan. I had no choice. My only other option was to return to the organization and lamely turn myself in. That was unthinkable. I had reached a point where anything was better than the life I was living. I could no longer tolerate the mental and physical stress that had been mounting after years inside the highest echelon of Scientology's international hierarchy. The physical beatings, the malnourishment and lack of sleep, the constant humiliation. The scales had finally tipped for me. I had been taught since childhood that the WOG, anything outside of Scientology, world was dangerous, degraded, and dark, but now it seemed less so than the Scientology world I was living in. I had reached the point where any fate would be better than the continued torture of life near the top of the self-proclaimed most ethical and enlightened group on earth.